We are now going to transition to the second part of our program and be able to have a conversation with Vernita and LaVante. So the two of you are welcome to come on up. And Andrea will be talking with them. We are very privileged to have both of these women with us. Vernita has paved, I don't know if that's quite the, we're mixing metaphors here, but paved uncharted waters at Wispus. That's probably minimizing it a little bit. And as of Tuesday of this week, LaVante is now a TEDx speaker. So we have a when that comes out, we really look forward to hearing that as well. And Andrea, please take it away.
I do this at church all the time.
Okay, thank you for being here. I'll do this all the time. So before we dig into your stories, wondering if you have any brief response to what we just saw.
Okay, I'll go first. What really stood out was equal, overthrow the government. I said, oh, I have that much power even today. But it was powerful just to hear where we have come from, but then to also wonder, have we really come that far?
And I guess as I was listening, I was looking out across the room. It's a hard conversation to hear some of those words, but when we hear it, it should go into us. It should help us to realize change has happened in some cases, but there's much more change to come.
So I hope everybody in the room is as excited as I am, because it's kind of interesting and exciting to put a mother and daughter side by side, right? And have them share their experiences. So when we had this opportunity, we were like, this is going to be really cool. So before we go in that direction, I want to ask Vernita to tell us a little bit about your mom and how she shaped your life and who you are today.
Gladly. So my mom, who just turned 92 on May 9th, she grew up, her mother was a single parent after her father left soon after she and her brothers were conceived. And they were in Florida. She lived in Florida, but then moved to Alabama, where the family, they were doing migrant work. So they would go across the state picking cotton. And, you know, she's told us stories of, you know, the injustices that occurred during that time and how hard, you know, the work was, and, you know, just the fact that her mother was a single parent trying to raise 2 boys and a girl. But it was a difficult time for them. And, you know, in hearing those stories, I think I've had a lot of advantages in my life. And I don't know that I would have been or survived the way she did during that time.
How do you attribute your strength to your mother?
The fact, you know, she married and they, you know, settled in Pennsylvania. I grew up with a mother and a father, so I had a strong, you know, parental force in my life. I saw her, though, you know, work hard throughout her life. My father, early on, wound up having a heart attack, and she really had to support the family after that. And, you know, just to see the resilience that she had during that time. And, you know, as the tables turned, she came to live with me a few years ago. And so now I'm sort of the caregiver. And, you know, just I'm so grateful that the influence that she had in my life is what it was. And, just, she always told me, as things happened in my life and I was put into positions and different things, she always said, it's wonderful that you are, achieving the way you are, but don't let your head get too big. Because just as quickly as you climb, you can just as quickly go down. And I've kept that thought, in my mind all these years.
Hard balance to be strong and confident and to remember not for your head to get too big.
Well, I think it's, just in terms of humbleness, you need to be humble because, lots of people don't have some of the advantages that I have had, and lots of people deserve, to have those. I think it's in knowing who you are, putting it all in perspective.
So if you find Vernita's bio in your program, you will see that she has the distinction of being the first senior vice president of color at Wisvis Bank. What do you attribute that to? How did that happen?
So I've been in banking. This year makes, I think, my 46th year in banking. Well, I'm so young, how can that be? But, through the years, I've had a lot of experiences in different roles. I've been the only one in a lot of rooms throughout my career and have experienced, what I would consider to be some injustices. But along the way, I met a lot of good people, good mentors, people who kept me grounded in what I was doing. And so I think when this came about, it was because of my work ethic and the work that I had done over the years, from bank to bank, because in Delaware, I'm from Delaware, there are lots of banks and lots of acquisitions and mergers, and I've had a lot of those in my career. But people along the way, saw the work that I do and valued that work for what it was, not just because I was a Black woman. And so I was afforded that opportunity. I don't know if this is the time or if there's another question, but I'll just tell a quick story. So when I was, told that I was going to be a senior vice president, I didn't know that I was the first one. And so our president then, Mark Turner, took me to lunch at what's interesting, I think, is the Wilmington Club, which used to be a men's exclusive club. Women were not allowed, and Black women were certainly not allowed. And so he took me to lunch, and as we're having lunch, he said to me, Vernita, you're the first senior vice president of color and a woman at this company. And at that time, the company was 185 years old. And so, I'm at lunch, and that falls on me. And I said to him, I said, Mark, I said, I feel honored, number one, and humbled to have that role. I said, but at the same time, I feel like now the weight of the world is on my shoulders because that's got to change. And he agreed. He said, you're absolutely right. He said, and we will do better. And he went on, along with encouragement and other folks to make change.
So that was 2017 when you were promoted to senior vice president. Can you give us any insight on what changed in 2020?
Ooh, I look around the room. A lot changed in 2020. Not just all that was going on. George Floyd, I will say, had a big influence in a lot of people's lives during that time, that tragedy. And so at that time, the bank did not have what a lot of our organizations have in terms of a DEI officer or resource groups that have different groups, that are involved in either racial things or could be people with disabilities, those kinds of things. But all that was shored up in a quick time, and we started having a lot of uncomfortable conversations within the company, and intentionally, and that's the word of the day, intentionally having these conversations with associates to find out how they were feeling about what had happened, and how they were dealing with it. It was difficult. But we had those conversations. We hired a DEI officer. Now we have all these resource groups that are, working with folks across the company. One of the conversations that I had with our then HR person was, the bank, Worcester's Bank is a great bank. I don't know if there are people who bank at Worcester's Bank, but it's a great bank. And I've worked at a lot of banks in my career, some small, some larger, but the culture there is inclusive. And, and the realization that we're not perfect, but we're open to see that we're not perfect, and we're open to make change when we can and as we can. And so a lot of that was done. The conversation I would have with our HR person, I would say, well, why are the majority of the people of color on the front line, so in the teller positions and those kinds of things? And the conversation was, well, we try to get more people of color in these positions, but it's hard because of this and that. I said, then we're not looking in the right places, and we need to extend and go further. And they have.
What conversation happens in your head as that leader? Like oftentimes you're the only one in the room, you've said. What conversation is in your head when you know that I have to have this difficult conversation?
Well, sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not. Because, as much as, you want to say, that's an injustice and, this is not happening right, in some cases there could be consequences that come with being so open and honest. And so, like in any situation, I think you weigh, you weigh the outcome and you decide, is this the right moment to speak? And sometimes it's not. And you bide your time, and then you have your say at a later time. And it depends on how you say it. You don't lash out at people, but you try to get people to understand some of the disparity that's happening that a lot of times they don't. I truly believe, not everyone. There are some people who know what they're doing, but I think there are folks who don't realize some of the biases and some of the things. We all carry biases, we all carry, we all discriminate in some way at some time in our lives. But it's, I think, becoming self-aware and really understanding who you are and how you need to interact with other people.
So that's you, as a Black woman with that weight, sometimes the only one in the room. What about the other people in the room? Like, let's talk about allyship. What is it that needs to be built or present with your colleagues to have such a inclusive, rich environment?
Again, I think it's those conversations, and as I said, I've been really blessed to have a lot of mentors over the years, a lot of folks who were in my corner, I'll say, and especially really good friends, one of which is here today, my friend Sarah. We've been friends since grade school. And I had another friend, Pastor Lottie, who passed away. But when I would be in situations where I was being, I remember at the bank before WISFIS, I had the opportunity to be the manager of their retail operations. And like I said, I had been in banking for a while, but I was like, oh God, can I do that? Do I really? And it was a smaller niche bank. And in addition to being the director of retail operations, I was going to be the CRA officer, the BSA officer. I mean, there were a lot of titles that, went with it. And I remember having the conversation, like, I don't know. And the two of them saying to me, you put your pants on every day just like everybody else does. And you can do whatever you put your mind to. You can learn. It's not that you can't learn. And so you can learn to do the job, and you have just as much right to be in that position as anybody. And so luckily, I've had those kinds of folks in my life. The HR person who I mentioned previously, Peggy Edmonds, she and I worked together at Mellon Bank long ago. And again, it's bringing your whole self to the work that you do. And no matter what it is, whether you're picking up garbage or whatever you're doing, do it the best that you can do. And that has been my mantra throughout life, is to do the best work that I can do, to learn, the most that I can. And Peggy saw that work ethic. So when the list came around, when WISFIS Bank was coming to purchase Christiana Bank and Trust, she saw my name on the list and said, oh my God, it's Vernita, we gotta get her back. So, how proud do I feel that I have folks of all colors who, have sort of fed into my life and encouraged me, and I've been able to have some of those honest conversations with them, sometimes even when it was hard.
Yeah, so tell us more about that trust, because we talked about this before, and I think it was obvious to me that doesn't happen overnight, right? You don't just walk in a room, so tell us more about how that trust is built.
You really have to build that trust with people, and it takes time. And certainly not just in my career, but in life in general, I think. You have to work with folks and help them to understand, where you're coming from, some of the disparities that you've seen. I can remember the recent Mayor Persicki, who just passed away in Delaware. He came to a meeting at the bank, and I was the only one in the room. There were other people in the room. I was the only female black person in the room. And I knew him from, previous relationship, and he reached in to give me a hug and whispered in my ear, why are you the only one? And all I could say was, I'm working on it.
Now, was he a white man?
Yes.
So you knew you had an ally in him somehow. Like he put himself out there to let you know, I see what you see.
Exactly. And that's, unfortunately, that's not the first time that has happened for me. I guess it was Senator Lisa Blunt Rochester came to visit the bank also, and her PR person was there, and same sort of thing happened. She's like, what is happening here? And again, all I could say was, I'm working on it. And strides have been definitely made in terms of, where, in terms of WISFIS Bank anywhere, where the company has come. There are many more senior vice presidents of color within the company, as well as we've had folks in our executive management team. And there's an intentional effort to recruit, to hire, to look at places where good people can be found, good people of color can be found to come into this organization and have the same rights and freedoms that everybody else has.
I'm going to give you a chance to promote WSFIS a little bit more, only because I want to ask you, you spoke about 2020 and DEI initiatives and things like that, and now that's all under attack from the federal administration. What have you seen at WSFIS because of that? Like, are those things being rolled back?
So we have not. We have not. I think there were some, and my manager is here, but there was a slight tweak, I think, to the title of the DEI group, more around culture and inclusion. But all of the things that were going on, kept going on, and more things. We currently have a group called The Bridge, which is intentionally bringing about folks who want to be in leadership roles of all colors, but to really allow those people to be seen. Because in these corporations, a lot of times, if you don't know somebody who knows somebody, and you're not close to somebody who is close to somebody, then you don't get seen. And so this is an intentional way to bring those folks up to the forefront and allow them to achieve and to go as far as they want to go.
I think it's time we give LaVante.
I think you better let her talk. I can sit here and listen to my mama all day.
Okay, LaVante. So we know a little bit about your grandmother, now we know a little bit about your mom. How did they influence who you are today?
Well, I have taught her so well. But no, growing up, so mom is talking about her banking career, but she is so much more. I think I have sat in more board meetings and civic association meetings than I can count. Because she has always been about impact and community and trying to make spaces better for not only people of color, but anyone around her. And so when you get to see that leadership every day in your household, it's powerful. And when you have a rough moment, you call up your grandmother and she can give you non-filtered advice. There's just something that you become inside that's unstoppable, not too big-headed, because they told me the same thing. Don't start smelling yourself too much is what they would say. But overall, I would say it has been just transformative in what I believe I can achieve as a Black woman.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a giant question, so just give me the footnotes. How has being a Black woman affected your life? And I know that's like, that's a whole thesis to write, but give us like just a little thing, what comes to your mind when I say that?
Mom's nervous because she knows I like to cut up, but I love being blackity black. I love it, okay? Yes, I am an African American woman. I think about being in classes at the University of Delaware and being the only one. And there is a certain way you have to carry yourself and show up to show people, don't play with me, but also that I deserve to be here. And there was a moment, I received my master's in social work from the University of Pennsylvania. And thank you. Thank you, but that's nerve-wracking going to an Ivy League school coming from, I attended the William Penn High School in Delaware, and so it's a culture shock. However, you have to learn to rise to the occasion, and there's moments where you have that self-doubt, and I'm strongly based in my faith, but then I pull on the women from history before me, those examples, my mom, my grandma, my aunts, and you just get this feeling of being unstoppable, and that's where that's the lane that I move in. Like, I love to be creative. That's why I opened my own mental health private practice, because I like to do things my way, and so that's where I am.
So clearly, and I'll loop your mom, I don't know your mom's name.
Annie.
Annie? So Annie, Vernita, LaVante, all strong, confident women who seem to be mostly comfortable putting yourselves in spaces. But turn that to the other side, right? The people on the other side of the table, your colleagues that are either men or white women or the people in power, essentially. You come with all this strength and confidence, but what do you need from the other side to create a conducive environment, an inclusive environment? Am I making sense with my question?
I get where you're going. So, I think there is a level of realness and accountability that our counterparts have to have in seeing us and understanding that we are coming from a history of being unwanted and unseen and being treated as less than. And as much as we have pushed past that, it still shows up in the room. And you have to do an inner check within yourself to say, how am I still holding on to those pieces of power that don't allow persons of color to stand and be who they are? How am I discriminating? How am I doing things that may hold them back, either systemically or just in the individual that I show up as? And I think you also have to understand that we come into the room recognizing that that is there, and it's a force that we have to fight against, and sometimes we can't speak it because there will be consequences. And so in that allyship you were talking about, it's about building true relationships and building trust to where we can feel comfortable and safe. There's a lot of times when persons of colors are in the room and we don't feel safe to be our full selves because do you really have my back? And I think that's a challenge that I would give everyone. Do I really have their back? Or is there something in me that still feels like I have power and I want to hold persons of color back? And I think that's the difficult part of the conversation.
So what do we do with that? So step one, about self-evaluation.
Self-evaluating. First you have to be real with yourself. Stop lying to yourself. It's one of the things we work on in therapy all the time. We all have these underlying thoughts and values and beliefs going through. So you need to check your value system first and check your beliefs. And once you check it, you need to kind of bounce it off of someone and put words to it. You can speak it. You can tell us the truth of, I've actually been showing up this way and I realize it could be harmful to you, or I've had these thoughts and it's not helping you to progress as the human and intelligent professional that you are. And those are the conversations we are having. Overthrow the government, isn't that what it said in the thing?
I heard it. Or change the government. Okay, looking at my watch, so I'm gonna throw out the last question. So as we continue to examine the promises of the Declaration of Independence, like you said, so life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, what do you think needs to be true for those promises to happen in your life? Or those promises to be fulfilled?
Well, first, I think people need to know who they are. So you need to dig deep and really realize, who am I and what am I? And think about some of our behaviors when we're in these types of settings. Because, I bring bias to conversations just like anybody else. And so first, check yourself and, really know who you are. And I think, for me, listening to that statement, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, first of all, nobody can make me happy. And, I have to know who I am and where I find happiness and how I pursue my life. And I'll announce to the room that I'm retiring at the end of the year. And I'm gonna find my happiness there.
She gonna watch her grandson some more. That's what she gonna do.
But, 46 years of working, not just a career, but being a mom and, a person of faith and having lots of responsibilities. I pursue happiness in things that I want to do. I've often said that this work that I do in terms of managing social responsibility for this bank, and over my years of banking, always being in some sort of customer serving or front-facing role out in the community, that my role, is, I figure it's not really a job, it's a calling, what I do. And I get to, help folks in our nonprofit world who need help. I get to talk with a lot of people and see a lot of injustice that happens in the communities where we are. And we can't do it all, but we do as much as we can, and we try to make as much impact as we can in doing that work. And so for me, bringing that happiness to other people and affecting other people's lives so that they too can then pursue happiness for them and liberty.
Yes. I would piggyback off of Mom. So last year I had the honor of being a Leadership Delaware Fellow. Shout out to my fellow LDIers. And to sit in rooms and hear all that is going on and all the problems and all the things that need to be changed, first you get drained because it's like, oh goodness, why is so much happening? But then you realize that you can't just sit on the sideline. You have to be the one to step up to the plate and take an action to make change. So when I think about the pursuit, that I think some of that comes in it. But then when it comes to happiness, I think about my work day in and day out with women predominantly who I see for mental health services. And so many of us don't even know what our happy is, just like Mike said. And I think the first step is, what brings you joy? And I said this in my TED Talk last night. When you tune in with your core and your beliefs and your values, if you didn't have any more responsibilities in this lifetime, how would you live? What truly makes you happy and brings you joy? So you make change and then you pursue your own version of happiness and joy. And again, I'm hoping Mom's happiness is watching her 4-year-old grandson. I told her already, I'm not that grandmother.
We're trying to change your mind. So we didn't have too much time to talk into community, but I think it's obviously that you're both very, very community driven. And so I want to thank you for sharing yourselves once again with the community, with us, and to be so humble and gracious and joyous. And we are very lucky to have spent this time with you. So I appreciate both of you putting yourselves out there for us.
Thank you. And congratulations to the Fund for Women and Girls for 30 years of pursuing